Get everything set up here, and looks like we are getting ready to go as the lobby comes in. Welcome everyone to our first round of 8 matchup here for the CSL Vainglory season. As always, I am Esraf. With me is Belligerent, and I'll let him take it away.
Hey everybody, how is it going? We have an awesome matchup for you this evening. We have Purdue coming in with as a dominant 4-0 in the season with wins over Florida, Clemson, Illinois, and UMass Amherst. That record earned them a first round bye in the playoffs here. And they said that the bye was great for them. They put in a lot of hard work to achieve the bye, and doing that allowed them to put down VG for a little bit, focus on their midterms and their homework, and that way that they don't have anything else weighing on their mind coming into this match. And they are matched up tonight against Toronto, who comes into this 2-2 with wins over Glendale CC and UC Merced. They dropped matches to Santa Barbara and UC Irvine. They did win last week in the round of 16, beating Cal State Chico 2-1. So they are very excited to show off all their hard practice and preparation. Their last series went great, they felt, and they feel like they've grown a lot over the season. Their carry, Edge
Genesis.
There
Yeah.
we go. Wow. I slaughtered that one. Sorry about that. Made a big shift from support to carry. He's really starting to excel in his new role. So they are doing well, and I am hyped for this match.
Yeah, I am too. It's an interesting to see for Toronto as well, because Toronto has the likes of Brutal Turtle, who is one of the analysts for Echo Fox, actually, one of the challenger teams. Echo Fox used to be VG8, but they haven't been there in a while, and they've been hitting some struggle roads. But Brutal Turtle is a fairly active person in the VG community overall. He's a really nice guy and stuff like that, so it's cool to see him put a team together of, you know, he's a veteran, as well as one of his other teammates is kind of a veteran, and then bringing in the new blood here with Mert. Mert is their new guy that has just started playing Vainglory this season. So they kind of got people from all walks of, you know, video game and life coming together here to play against the powerhouse that what we've seen is Purdue, who, despite some missteps here and there, have seemed very strong throughout this entire tournament.
Yeah, and my first introduction to Brutal Turtle was right before I left the Gangstars organization. He was there for a brief period as their sub. So he has been with Gangstars, and as you said, now an analyst for Echo Fox. Also, just want to remind everybody, if you want to join our Discord community, just type !Discord in the chat, and you'll get the link to join up there. Keep up on all of your CSL need to knows, and you can follow CSL on Twitter at C Star League, or the Vainglory CSL specifically at CSL Vainglory. Their Facebook page is C Star League. And as always, we want to give nothing but gratitude for the largest streaming platform in gaming to support collegiate sports, or collegiate esports, Twitch. So be on the lookout for new cool opportunities and to get involved with Twitch in the near future. Show them some love and support at twitter.com/Twitch and facebook.com/Twitch.
Yeah, and it looks like we're just getting some finalizations here in the lobby, and we should get this match underway pretty quickly. It looks like, yeah, everybody seems to be ready, and we're about to jump into the draft right away. What are you expecting to see from the drafts this time?
You know, it's kind of up in the air right now because everybody is still feeling out this meta a little bit. You know, Crystal Gwen seems to be a thing popping up. Rona ban and Black Feather ban, not surprising. Rona definitely very strong, but her strength is more predicated on the fact that Black Feather is so strong, and she makes a good counter into that. So we do see the Arden picked up here first. Again, we've said it before, but because of the recent updates with all of the heroes having higher health, Arden is a benefactor of that, with his Vanguard now providing more barrier. We see the Catherine come out on the side for Toronto.
Yeah, followed up with
Followed
a
up
Gwen, yeah.
Yeah, that Gwen. I expect it to be a CP Gwen. Like I said, CP Gwen is finding her way back into the meta. Some people may remember earlier in this year, Weapon Gwen was very strong, and then took a hit to her heroic perk, which kind of lowered the amount of burst she was able to do. But just got a recent buff to her crystal power. So Vox picked up here by the side of Purdue, always a steady laner. I can't even recall the last time we saw Vox fall out of the meta.
Yeah, and then they rounded out with the Alpha pickup. Alpha is another hero that's been really strong in this recent patch. Even in 2.9, she kind of saw a lot of play. But yeah, with the new patch and the presence of aftershock junglers, I feel like Alpha is definitely up there, especially with the Rhyme nerf as well. Kind of puts her in a position where she can almost play in any comp. But it's going to be interesting to see as the Sky comes up for the last pickup for Brood or Turtle in the jungle, actually, for the side of Toronto.
Sky, a fairly well-known alpha counter. So we'll have to see how this is going to work now. I wonder if they're going to go with a double crystal, if they're going to try a weapon power Sky, or maybe it's going to be a weapon power Gwen, which, frightens me just a little bit because weapon power Gwen is not that strong, especially against a Vox who can just kind of dominate the lane. So we'll see which direction they go as we get into the match here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I agree with you full-heartedly, though. I feel like Weapon Power Gwen is a little bit weaker comparison to the potential damage you can put out in the late game as a CP Gwen. It's almost very similar how we used to see like Celeste and stuff get to a point where once you get 3 or 4 items on a CP Gwen, you start doing an absurd amount of damage, and you do it from a fairly safe distance as well. And it can become a real issue for people to go with. And it looks like they're actually right now they're going double CP.
Yeah, double CP right off the bat. So we aren't even left to wonder what's going to happen. We see double CP come out right away from the side of Toronto. A lot of people are kind of fearful of going any type of double power, whether it be double weapon, double crystal. Double weapon seems to be a little more common, but I feel like you can win with double crystal or double weapon. It's more about the comp.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with the comp decision there. It can be hit and miss. It really can decide what works and what doesn't. Just basically what you have as a captain, what you have as a team. And now we have a fight going over at the Elder Tree. Blue Turtle does secure it. Myrtle Beach was able to distract there a little bit, and it looks like he laid out a relentless pursuit onto one of the members of Purdue to keep them from unable to secure it. So,
actually, I believe it was BTK line that got it, so Purdue did steal that Trina away with
did
the
he
Prime
really?
Directive from the Alpha. Yep.
Huh. I thought I saw the heal go to the Alpha, or to the Sky, but I guess I was wrong. I guess the stun came out a little bit early from Myrtle Beach. He tried to stun him to keep him from off of it, but able to get off that initiation, got BT Klein the Elder Tree. And yeah, they do have a little bit of gold lead, so that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, so a little bit of gold there to get Purdue off to a good start. Fairly even in the lane right now, fairly even in the jungle, so nobody necessarily, there was no kills going out. It was just kind of a soiree there to get the Elder Treant, and then they went back to their own neutral corners.
This time
Brutal Turtle
yeah, it does get
Brutal Turtle does get it this time.
Yeah. BT Klein was doing his backs and then rotating his middle. A little bit slower jungle rotation coming out from Purdue, and Brutal Turtle showing that he knows how to rotate properly. Now he's in a 1v3, almost half healthing the Vox there, and he's still going. Myrtle Beach has rotated down with that Catherine, and now it's a 2v3. Gwen is still in lane pushing, though. I don't know if Toronto wants to take this. A little bit of poke might not be too bad, though, and that's a lot of poke, almost killing the Arden there. He's going to try and stun, but the Vanguard gets TNT out of there safely. A little bit more back and forth poking. I think feel like both teams are trying to fill each other out a little bit here. But here comes the invade. Brutal Turtle goes in with the help of that Catherine, so he might be able to get this Arden now. Alpha Initiation comes in, a nice little Shuri strike out of that to keep him out of the damage. And I feel like First Blood's about to come out for Brutal Turtle. He does get First Blood onto TNT after some pretty swift Sky play moving around the map there to keep himself out of trouble.
Yeah, and he does get the Treant, the heal camp from the backs there. And that's one of the reasons one of the ways that how Sky can counter the Alpha is by being able to, if you time it right, you can Surrey Strike away and not take any damage from that Prime Directive. We saw it there. And it was a 1v3. Oh, it looks like they have BT Klein caught out here a little bit by the Elder again.
Yeah, he looks like he wants to try and contest it, and that's what he's doing. Here comes his teammates down to help, and he does secure it. It looked like, yes, he did get it. BT Klein with a nice play there. They're going to apply
that's actually Brutal Turtle that got it.
Did he get it? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I can't tell. It looked like I keep seeing the animation go on the wrong target then. I must be just blind today. But it looked like he
Brutal
got
Turtle managed to get that one.
Wow, so Brutal Turtle with the secure on that one that time as well. Keeps him up on farm over BT Klein. And as you were mentioning, Sky kind of the natural counter, or one of the natural counters to Alpha. And with a little bit of a lead here, Brutal Turtle, I feel like, will be able to make the plays happen for sure. Out of anybody on Toronto to make good plays, I can imagine Brutal Turtle to be the one that leads in that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, the goal of their comp is to get this guy to 3 items as quickly as possible, and then possibly even a 4th item. But you're going to see their comp really come online when they get to 3 items, which is dangerous for Purdue right now, because even with no tier 3 items, this guy already causing havoc for Purdue.
Yeah, that just goes to show an experienced player like Brutal Turtle showcasing his ability to play some of these more mechanically skilled champions like Sky. But now we see the Shadow Glass is done on the Gwen, and you saw that first buckshot hit on the Vox, and he lost a quarter of his health. And there's the second one. He's losing about a third of his health every buckshot now, and that's that power of CP Gwen. Once you start getting those items online, you do a lot of poke damage. And actually, I kind of want to applaud the team comp from here, even though they're going double CP. I feel like Sky and Gwen should be able to work well enough with one another. They both have the ability to poke, and they both have the ability to CC with their ultis. It might turn out to be extremely in their advantage, especially with the Catherine backup. I'm just really enjoying their draft now, seeing how they're playing it out. And Brutal Turtle not giving up the aggression here, going in and stealing the middle here and applying some pressure onto TNT. He's going to be in a lot of trouble here. It looks like, Brutal Turtle's going to go in for it. And there's the last kill, the last hit to secure the kill. And Alpha going to try and come in as level 6 now. She might be able to fight, but I don't think that's going to be the case, because even 2v2, I think they're in trouble with this Sky, because Brutal Turtle is just making the enemy jungle his now.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see the flask forced out from Brutal Turtle. I think he might have panicked a little bit. He was in kind of a bad spot for a moment, caught between BT Klein and the Crystal Sentry, so he popped that flask, hit his boots. So those are some pretty big cooldowns that are not available for him at the moment.
But he's still in the jungle, and he still gets another kill onto TNT this time, as he was trying to recall out. Maybe a little bit of a mixed play by TNT there, thinking that he would be able to interrupt him and keep him from recalling. But he did, but it ended up costing him his life, so I don't know if that was worth it. We see the Dragon's Eye coming out, though, now for Brutal Turtle, so that's going to be a fairly large item spike for him.
Yeah, the Dragon's Eye, a great item on Sky if you want to have the prolonged fights, and with a comp of Arden and Alpha, that is probably what you're going to see coming out here.
Yeah, that Alpha trying to chase you down and hit people is pretty normal to have a Sky to try to kite back, and that's what I was mentioning about their team comp earlier. With both the poke from Gwen and the poke from Sky, and their mobility, to be honest, there's not a lot of studs to lock them down. So the two of them should be able to get a lot of damage done while being able to avoid a lot of it themselves. Looks like more damage. The Ace's High comes out, does connect onto the Vox, but there was no buckshot follow-up. He did do the buckshot first. Ed Genius doing a pretty good job here pressuring this Vox down with the buckshots.
Yeah, and I felt like that was a smart play by Ed Genesis to hold on to that buckshot, because we did see TNT come in and Vanguard Jimenez, which would have provided enough protection to stop that buckshot. Without the Vanguard, one more buckshot would have cleaned up Vox in that play, but because the Arden came in, I felt it was a smart move to save that cooldown. Yeah,
just using his Ace's High to apply the pressure and buy. I mean, he may have not been looking for the kill. I mean, it wouldn't have been great if he got it, but he did buy time for Myrtle Beach and Brutal Turtle to just easily secure that gold mine for them and give them even more of a gold lead here in the first couple minutes.
Yeah, and despite the pressure from Toronto, you see here how the Crystal Gwen does struggle to farm. Edge Genesis slightly behind Jimenez in farm. It just takes so many auto attacks for that Gwen to take out a single minion.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain. When I've been playing her, I do end up trying to just use her passive as much as possible. But here we go, another fight. Gauntlet comes out. Good Gauntlet lands on 2 there. Brutal Turtle just barely able to dodge it. But the fight's still going on. Here comes the Alpha in, but now everyone's really low on the side of Purdue. And Alpha goes in, and she's barely going to get her ulti out, but it looks like Vox went back in to try and do something, and just ends up dying. And there's no damage on this Alpha yet, and she barely gets the reboot off. And oh, is it going to be close? No, they're going to get AC, it looks like. And they do. She tried to reinitiate there to try and do the damage with the ulti, but the damage just wasn't there. It barely moved Brutal Turtle's health, who has a little bit of shield already, and it just spells disaster for Purdue as they're going to lose their first turret as well.
Yeah, and that Dragon's Eye really came into play in that exchange. Brutal Turtle up at the full 9 stacks for a good majority of that engage there. Another thing to point out about his build, which is sometimes a big question about the Crystal Power Sky, is do you use the Frostburn and things of that nature. But I really do approve of his choice of taking the Dragon's Eye here instead of the Frostburn, simply because you're facing an Alpha. Alpha is not a character that chases you. She jumps at you. She uses Prime Directives. So Frostburn really not going to have any kind of substantial impact on an Alpha type hero.
Yeah, there's no real movement from her coming out. She's not walking towards you. She's leaping towards you with either her A or her B. So it just the slow doesn't do you a whole lot of good. It can buy you some space if you need it, but they do have that CP Gwen, and she's gonna be pumping out those buckshots. And buckshots is a pretty good reliable slow as it is. And when you don't need to complete, if that's not their only way to get in, yeah, that was close.
God. That buckshot hit all 3 members of Purdue and took a good, from somewhere between 25 to 30% of each member's health with
and then you see Brutal Turtle go in after that, and then the Ace's High gets blocked up by the Arden, but it's still going to do way too much damage and will take him out. Alpha does not have her ult up. It was already taken out by Brutal Turtle, and now she's low. Fountain comes out. 2 kills are down, but it looks like they should die for this, honestly. That Vox is so low. They're going to try and get around for it, and they do end up cleaning up. That's a second ace for the side of Toronto, just showcasing some really nice teamwork. And then again, the power of this CP Gwen. All he's really doing is shooting out these buckshots to do a little bit of poke damage and clear the wave, keep the pressure up. And then Brutal Turtle just sees the opportunity, goes in, and pops Alpha's ulti off almost before the fight even began. Off of that first buckshot, and that just spells disaster for the side of Purdue, because they're just taking too much damage too early before they even want to initiate.
Yeah, and they're gonna clean up a turret and a gold mine off of that. Brutal Turtle did have his ace buff canceled by the turret shot, so he is still low on health. But he is at his backs cleaning up right now, so shouldn't have any issues coming out of Purdue. You got to think that they're kind of on their back foot, so they're not looking for a jungle invade anyway right now.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. I feel like what TNT's doing now, he should be being a little bit more prolific about the mine scouting, because there is a contraption and mine spot or scout trap spot on the side of Myrtle Beach, and he's just doing what Catherines normally tend to do, which is just throw scout traps down everywhere. Give your team the vision advantage. Let people know where everyone is as much as possible, and then you allow your teammates to make the correct choices. And so far, so good for the side of Toronto. 9 kills to none. No one has even been relatively close to dying except for Brutal Turtle after diving under turrets. And now Arden in a lot of trouble again. The stun misses. This time it looks like they might be able to get out. He does throw the gauntlet, lands the stun on 2. Beautiful silence to follow it up, and Brutal Turtle should go down here. He does barely get out. Oh my goodness, he's going to be able to live here, isn't he? Oh no, it looked like it was the perfect fight for Purdue. Fountain for them just finally comes out. Gwen's barely getting away. She's super low. They should be able to take out at least her. Block comes out for the stun onto the box. And here we go, Alpha going to be able to clean stuff up. BT Klein finally trying to come online, has that Aegis up, doesn't have any boots though. I feel like that's a little weird, but he has that Aftershock up, and it looks like he might be going towards his second tier 3 item as well. Finally able to clean up some kills, maybe a little aggressive, over aggressive by the side of Toronto, but good plays by the side of Purdue for sure. That gauntlet, it looked bad at first, but TNT, great gauntlet followed by the wait for it from Vox, makes a fairly good fight for the side of Purdue.
Yeah, Brutal Turtle ended up getting stunned at least two, maybe three times on that gauntlet wall because he just got caught in a really awkward position. Did manage to get himself out, however, chose to stick around and kind of try and poke and just kind of gave away a kill for free there by doing so, especially after Edge Genesis went down. I felt like Brutal Turtle should have just disengaged, but he tried to continue with that poke, and it didn't pay off for him.
Yeah, it's the first little misstep we've seen from Toronto this game, but Purdue showing signs of life, though, which is good. We were expecting this game to be fairly close. Purdue is the side that will only drop one map the entire regular season, and so it's interesting to see them struggle here. I mean, obviously they struggled in one of their regular season games too, showcasing that they weren't entirely sure how to play against the Saw, but maybe it's just a chance of playing a team that has a little bit more experienced players, though, as well. I mean, not everyone in the CSL can say that they've played or subbed for a VGA team like Brutal Turtle has.
Yeah, and it is a 7-kill lead, and that equates into a 5K gold lead for the side of Toronto right now. TNT going very low. I would seriously like to see him pick up an Aegis.
For the extra stuff there, for the extra shield. But
Yeah,
that looks like there's gonna fight there, though, because BT Klein just going to town there. Maybe not the safest fight from the side of Toronto, and they end up Ed Genesis getting caught out first, and Jimenez actually got the kill on him. This Vox is starting to do work now with his items.
Yeah, we are starting to see Purdue come online as they get these offensive items. And again, I have mentioned it before with Catherine, especially now with her being a lot less tanky with the recent nerfs to her heroic perk. She just doesn't have the ability to stop the dive, and that's what Purdue has: is dive from Alpha, dive from Art, and Vox is one of the most skilled, one of the most capable dive carry heroes. So and that's what we're seeing now. Purdue coming online, diving onto Edge Genesis, and then typically cleaning up Brutal Turtle afterwards. As another fight breaks out here by the Kraken. Kraken fighting on the side of
Beautiful
Toronto.
stuns on the BT Klein there. Both the aces high and the ultimate from Sky landed on top of him, stunning him up, unable to reboot there, and died before he even got it off. So no proc from the ulti or anything like that. I felt like that was a little bit overzealous from the side of Purdue. There is tons of vision down for the side of Toronto still, and they just were not ready for that. They barely cleaned the mine off of the Kraken, and then they get caught out. There was no gauntlet up or anything like that. They need to be a little bit more wary, I feel, of their cooldown timings. Otherwise, Toronto is just going to do what they did there and take advantage of the fact that they're caught out without their abilities up.
Yeah, definitely. And just again, to go back to the build of TNT and not having this Aegis, he has a Crucible. There's not a whole lot except for the Catherine silence to Crucible, which I can understand is kind of important. But, you know, most of what is hurting them right now is this forward barrage from Brutal Turtle. And without an Aegis, TNT just melts like butter rather than being able to body block for his team.
Yeah, exactly. He takes that full frontal barrage and puts his Melon Health. Another good gauntlet there, but this time the initial erasing protocol does not land, so Alpha wasn't able to get into the fight right away, and it's just going to be able to hopefully deter a little bit. But if this stun lands, there comes the Echo stun out. This time Alpha is on top of there, but the Crucible gets popped. I believe it was a Crucible. It might have been just a reflex block. It was a reflex block, but they get out of the stun, and Alpha's back in it, kills Vox. Not Alpha, sorry, Sky's back in it and gets the kill on Vox. Really low is Brutal Turtle, but he does pop that passive again, and again, just blown off the face of the earth is BT Klein on this Alpha. The full stacks on that Dragon's Eye and the double infusions from both Ed Genesis and Brutal Turtle is making this almost impossible. Yep, with the ace, that seals it. Game 1 is going to go to the side of Toronto with some impressive double CP comp coming out here to take the first victory.
Yeah, and we saw a couple things come into play in that last fight. The Eve of Harvest on Brutal Turtle, keeping him alive, as well as just the power, the raw damage from that buckshot from Edge Genesis. That BT Klein coming in, looking for the kill on Brutal Turtle, but suddenly loses a huge chunk of health because of the buckshot. Brutal Turtle able to sustain from the regeneration on the Eve of Harvest. They get the kill on the Alpha and finish with the Kraken. So great play out of Toronto, kind of upsetting Purdue at the moment here. Purdue not having lost yet, and on the brink of having an early exit from the playoffs.
Yeah, after that bye week, maybe that bye week hurt them a little bit. I'm not sure if they get a whole lot of practice done or if they tried to focus more on school. But yeah, that's a quick 1-0 lead here for the side of Toronto over Purdue. And we're gonna jump out of this. Here's one thing I want to ask you though, Belligerent. Did you see the alpha build of no boots? How do you feel about that?
I don't necessarily mind it too much. There was Alpha doesn't need to boot a lot just because, as we've mentioned before, all of her abilities kind of are gap closers anyway. She's not really one that's going to run away, and with a Sky, you're not going to really run away from Sky, and with the buckshot on Gwen, I mean, boots aren't really going to come into play for Gwen or for Alpha a lot in those situations. I know we think of boots as kind of typically your staple item. You have to have boots, but I don't necessarily mind it in that situation. Just Alpha doesn't necessarily need them. There's a few heroes in the game that I tend to forget to build boots on, Alpha being one of them, Kroll being another, just because of his passive, how he can rush out of the bush, and Fortress being another, because he gets a majority of his speed boost from being around
An ally,
teammates.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like I don't mind the no boots from Alpha, just because she has so many gap closers. Every ability except for her ultimate is a gap closer, so she's going to be able to close that gap to catch targets that she wants to catch. And in most cases, like if she misses with a prime directive, they're already too far away to really chase down with boots anyways. And I don't really necessarily recall any situation there where it might have kept her alive. So I don't necessarily mind no boots in that scenario.
Yeah, I just thought it was something that was a little odd, maybe to see something we may not be used to, is seeing no boots on a hero. But Alpha was also building towards a fountain there at the end for that double shield, I guess, is what you mentioned before that you wanted to see on Arden, was the extra shield from the Aegis. Maybe just trying to buy a little bit more time to live, but even with that double shield, he just died so fast in those fights from both Alpha initiation and the buckshots from Gwen. If there was an Aces
Yeah,
high that landed, it was just over, it felt like.
yeah, and like I said, I think a big part of that was TNT not being able to body block those forward barrages. So he would just melt as soon as he hit a forward barrage. He'd have to get out of the way, which gave Brutal Turtle open access to BT Klein and Jimenez. So uh, with an Aegis on the Arden, had he built that, he would have been able to tank up some more of that damage for his teammates, and maybe allowed this Alpha to get in there and do Alpha things. But as it was, they were just all melting from the forward barrage and the buckshot. I mean, buckshot is such a frustrating ability, especially on a
Oh.
Crystal Gwen, because it feels like you could build 6 Aegises and she would still chunk your health in a few buckshots. So, yeah, I mean, just too much damage, too much burst coming out from that comp.
Yeah, it was well played all around from the side of Toronto, and we did see live from Purdue. Obviously, that one gauntlet fight that they won, which was a fairly almost easy looking cleanup for them. Maybe they just need a little bit better decision making and stuff like that, and they'll be ready to go. So,
Yeah, well, I
um,
felt like had that match gone longer and deeper into the late game, Purdue may have had a chance to gain some footing. They were starting to make some plays, but it felt like Toronto just had too much momentum. I got to give props to TNT. I've been beating him up kind of for no Aegis, but his gauntlets were just godlike. He was constantly getting 2 and 3 man stuns on those gauntlets, and that was really impressive. So, to be honest, if I'm Toronto, I'm kind of considering taking away the art,
yeah,
just because of how influential and how good he was at playing those.
yeah, it was very interesting to see how well his gauntlet placements were once they were online. I feel like if they did a little bit better job playing around the gauntlets, maybe it could have been a lot better for them. Like if they would have waited till the gauntlet was back online a couple times, they might have been able to keep taking fights and push into that late game, like you mentioned, to be able to catch back up on items and then start being able to take fights. And there is the Arden ban, as you mentioned, actually.
Yeah, the Arden ban actually comes out from Purdue, however, so taking it away from themselves. The Black Feather's off the board, the Arden's off the board. Rona is still on the board, but with the way that Brutal Turtle was playing Sky, if I'm Toronto, I would not be worried about a Rona right now, although it looks like that's where they're going with their first pick, and indeed they pick it up. So really need to see the Sky come out on the side of Purdue here to counter this Rona. There's not very many other heroes that you can play into the Rona right now. Possibly a Kroll, maybe a Rhyme, but I feel like Rona wins those engages in a lot of cases, especially depending on the captain that comes out and whether or not they can help that Rona. Arden's off the board, but things like Lance or Finn, uh, and we did in the Challenger battles this past weekend saw Finn was a really great counter, but instead we see the Catherine picked up, which is also another on-demand stun, and that's what you need to shut down a Rona. So Catherine and Vox come out here. And they're gonna pick up the pedal. I would have really liked to see them pick up the Sky again because he was so prolific on that Sky, and Sky can really counter that Rona. So we'll see if Purdue will come back and pick up the Sky with this last pick here.
Yeah, we'll see what the captain pick is also going to be here for the side of Toronto. There's a hover over Flicker. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be the last pick, but it's getting pretty close down to the while. And they're actually going to go with the Captain Koshka, it looks like.
Yeah, Captain Koshka. We haven't seen this for a few seasons. When TSM made it a thing, we saw C9 have a little bit of success. And then it kind of dipped away, but definitely an off-meta captain, but can be very influential as far as pushing the jungle early. Pedal a very early game hero as far as pushing that jungle. And we see the Rhyme last pick, Rhyme into a Pedal.
Yeah, it seems like it might be a little rough. You tell me
what you think about that, cause
So technically Rhyme has a little bit more range now with the rework they did to him on 210, but I feel like he's gonna struggle pretty hard here with his pedal.
But the catch 22 to that more range from Rhyme is that now his fortified health comes off of auto attacks instead of ability damage. So you have to be close in order to get your fortified health, and that's also why we've seen some weapon power Rhymes have a lot of success, because the fortified health comes from the auto attacks now, and so if you're doing more damage with your auto attacks, you get more fortified health. I'm really fearful for Purdue and their perfect streak here right now with this Rhyme pickup into the pedal.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to feel. And actually, according to what I'm seeing in chat right now, is the Koshka pickup is because they didn't have any supports to pick from Myrtle Beach. He didn't have any of them unlocked. A little bit of a problem for someone that just started playing the game. But that's what they mentioned in chat is like, oh, he doesn't have any supports unlocked, so we had him pick Koshka. I'm not entirely sure if that's troll. But we'll see how it goes here, though, as it goes along.
I feel like, maybe Brutal Turtle would have had some of them unlocked, and they could have swapped there or something. Because you can swap with somebody even if it's a hero you don't own. So.
Yeah, exactly. But here comes a fight breaking out. TNT going really low. The Elder Trinket goes to Koshka there, actually gets the last hit on it, and now there's trouble because Petal's level 2 and she's just going to chase down people into the jungle. A little bit of kiting thrown out from BT Klein as he tries to keep Petal away from his Catherine, but now this is going to be bad for them either way because they're both half health and their backs are about to spawn, and BT Klein wants to fight this and he's going back in. He doesn't have the energy for this. I feel like this is a mistake. He's probably going to go down here as long as, with the movement mobility from the passive from the Koshka, she's able to just kind of kite around and let Petal take the kill pretty easily.
Yeah, and
in lane, there goes down. Jimenez gets soloed by Genesis here on this Rona, and now their backs are going down as well. This is looking really, really rough for this side of Purdue.
Yeah, really bad for Purdue, and although we discussed it being a mistake or kind of forced into as far as Myrtle Beach being on this Koshka, I gotta admit I really like this comp because if Petal can snowball against you, she is so destructive. And Koshka doesn't need any damage items in the early game to do damage, so you basically have two junglers out there as far as people who are applying the damage.
Yeah, and Koshka and Petal are two junglers that are probably two of the hardest junglers to get away from as well. So you have two people with high mobility and high damage in early game chasing you down. We saw how well that did for them in their jungle invade, getting them that kill on BT Klein. And then it also buys time for Ed Genius, who almost goes down there, but he was able to get the 1v1 onto Jimenez at late, extending their lead even further, where we're at 3 minutes in and they're already up 2 game gold.
Yeah, and the other effect from having these two mobile junglers down here, although one is acting as a captain, is there's not going to be anybody there for Rhyme to hit. Like, he won't be able to land any of his abilities or land his auto attacks because they can just jump away from him. I mean, Petal does a trampoline away, no problem, like he just did in the down in the jungle. Myrtle Beach can pounce in, pounce out. Koshka really good for stealing farm if need be. And we see Brutal Turtle get another kill down in the jungle.
Yeah, really smart play there by Brutal Turtle. He decides to go for the invade as Purdue was applying a lot of pressure on lane. Vox had come back from buying already and decided to go into lane and pressure with the Catherine. They almost got Ed Genesis down as well as lowering Myrtle Beach quite a bit, but it opened up a door for a Brutal Turtle on this Petal to be like, okay, they're both in lane. That means Rhyme's alone in the jungle. Goes in, finds Rhyme alone, and then takes him out. Now there's a 1v1 fight going on again between Rhyme and Petal. Trampoline happens to get away, but now he's in a lot of trouble though, because this is that problem with Petal. He does make the turnaround and he does end up getting the kill. The good flask use by BT Klein, barely pulling out the fight on that one.
Yeah, that was very close, and that could have honestly gone either way.
And then there's the rotation from the laners, and they end up getting the kill. They trade the kill either way. But there is a Frostburn on this Petal. How do you feel about that after the changes?
I don't like the Frostburn on Petal. The only way that you can apply the Frostburn on Petal is by exploding your Munions. I much rather, especially when you have a comp like this that can just totally snowball. I really would like to have seen the Shattered Glass on the Petal, the raw damage, because that's really the way that Petal works now, is just the raw damage. So not a fan of the Frostburn right here. We'll see how it goes. I still think that Toronto definitely in the driver's seat with these comps. And, I kind of got to be honest, if I'm an Echo Fox fan right now in the way that Toronto's been drafting, I'm asking Brutal Turtle where these drafts were for Echo Fox matches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it seems like he knows what to draft, but obviously it might be a little bit different drafting versus Purdue versus drafting versus a VG8 team or one of the other teams that made it. But another fight breaking out. Fountain comes out, and it looks like, TNT is going to be the first one to go down. They don't have the Fountain on the side of Purdue, so this is a very awkward fight with them. Rhyme's already back. It's just Jimenez 1v3ing under this turret, and eventually he's going to lose because, here comes the Petal with the poke damage. Munion's almost all dead, but she's going to need one or two more to be able to take it out. But Rhyme is now back to help deflect away from the dive onto the Vox, but Jimenez going back in with almost no health. This seems like a mistake. Yeah, he's going to get cleaned up here really easily. A little bit of a misjudgment there to try and go back in. I mean, it's a Captain Koshka. She's just going to pounce on you. And now the fight breaks out again.
Yeah, that was amazing damage juggling on the side of Toronto. Just taking turns, going back in, taking those turret shots to get more and more damage on Jimenez. I think, Jimenez reason for sticking behind was to try to defend that turret, but I gotta be honest, and I even told the guys from Nova this when the changes got made. That first turret not as important anymore. It's only 200 gold and it has less health, so sometimes you just gotta let that turret go. I felt he was trying too hard to protect that turret. He gives up the kill, ends up giving up the turret anyway. It's now 8-1 in favor of Toronto with a 4K gold lead at only 6.5 minutes. They are just shy of 1,000 gold lead per minute at this point.
Yeah, which is absurd to see in this game. Also, real quick as we go back to this, is we have a little bit of a fight breaking out in lane, kind of backing off here from the side of Toronto. We were talking about that Frostburn on Petal. Just so everyone knows, if you're not aware, Frostburn used to be like the main item on Petal until the recent patch where they made it so Frostburn, the slow effect from Frostburn is only applied by certain ability damaging effects. As we have a fight breakout, and again, looks like TNT finally bought the fountain. He's gonna have to pop it early to heal himself, but he is gonna go down here. But with that change, Petal minions don't actually do what they call as CP damage anymore, so they don't apply the Frostburn slow, which is why we were talking about how we don't like it as much anymore. There's no real way to apply that Frostburn slow on Petal, but as we see, not really hurting them too much as they're able to just kind of use that Petal for early aggression and just bully the side of Purdue.
Just a quick point of clarification, the minions do still do CP damage. However, you did say it correctly at the beginning, where it's ability damage, and they don't count the damage from the minions as ability damage that procs the slow on the Frostburn. So
yeah, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, that's why the Shatter Glass now a better item on Petal than the Frostburn, because they do still do the CP damage, but you get far more CP damage out of a Shatter Glass. But they aren't considered ability damage.
Yeah, they just don't apply that Frostburn slow, which makes the item far less useful. But there we go, we got to see it apply that time from the explosion from the minions there. Does end up slowing out Rhyme and killing him. Petal really low though. It looks like both sides are kind of falling back. Fountains have already been used. Jimenez really low, trying to keep himself alive, but he's still trying to clear out minions at the turret. And here comes Petal again. These minions might be able to get the kill onto it. Yes, they do. Does he have another trampoline up? It doesn't look like it. Brutal is going to lose his life for this one on that dive. Just going a little too ham, hoping he was going to be able to get both, but he does get TNT, but they're not going to be able to get the turret, so just a 1-for-1 trade there.
Yeah, it looked like he may not have been paying attention. Energy, I don't think it was that trampoline wasn't back up. I think it was that he ran out of energy. At least that's what it looked like to me. I might have missed something, but you know, he only has the single energy battery right now. He hasn't even upgraded that into the void battery yet, so but he did pick up the Dragon's Eye now, so we're going to see that scaling ability. And we also see the scaling ability on the Rona with a Genesis going with your typical Rona build of Serpent's Mask and Breaking Point. But, you know, just something to keep in note is that the Breaking Point did get a nerf. It now takes far more weapon damage to actually proc the stacks. As where, like with the Dragon's Eye, it's just all about how long you're engaged in the fight.
Yeah, as long as you're doing damage and engaged, basically, you're be able to keep building those stacks. As long as you're continuously there, it doesn't require a certain amount to give you a stack. It just requires the fact that you do the damage to get the stack, and it builds up slowly over time. So longer fights are the Dragon's Eye builds up a little bit faster than the Breaking Point. But there is no Breaking Point on the side of Purdue yet, and looks like another fight coming out. Valkyrie comes down, barely connects on the 2. Wait for it, comes out, but it looks like Ryan's gonna go down way earlier than they wanted him to. Unable to tank for very long, and now here comes the full-in push. And Koshka going for the dive this time. Almost dead is this. Fox does get it this time. We saw slightly before that fight broke out, though, too, as well. Jimenez got caught out in lane. And it looks like Brutal Turtle changing his mind on that one, not wanting to dive. They're going to go for the turret this time. But Myrtle Beach was able to use that Yummy Cabinet Frenzy right on Jimenez with a Genesis in lane, and they just blew up that box. Just easy lockdown, easy kills is what the Koshka captain is known for. That Yummy Cabinet Frenzy is just an extremely potent CC.
Yeah, and so we definitely saw the scaling come into play there. Brutal Turtle reaching all full 9 stacks in that fight. Edge Genesis got up to 13 stacks on his Breaking Point, and you did point out there's no Breaking Point on the side of Purdue yet, which I honestly am a fan of, because like I just mentioned, it takes much more weapon power damage to proc the stacks of the Breaking Point, and going with a Poison Shiv, you just don't have the weapon damage to do that. He did go Poison Shiv and Sorrow Blade. Whether he will make it to the point of building a Breaking Point, because this is likely the time where we'd see somebody start building the Breaking Point as the 3rd item on this type of box build.
Yeah, and another fight looks like it's about to break out again. This time Koshka's not there. Petal does blow up Rhyme, though. This is a 2v3. This is how confident Toronto is right now. Flash comes out for Petal fairly low, but half health already on this Catherine. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how it is. The Koshka finally showing back up. Are they going to use that ulti to dive here? It looks like they're going in right now. The Koshka ulti is still up, has not yet been used. He throws it onto the Catherine, but Catherine was going to die. excuse me, either way there. So looks like they're going to try and fall back out here. Looks like a fountain has already been used, crucible used as well. They're going to have to run out of this because there's too much health on the side of Purdue with this half health choke point turret. I feel like staying would be a little bit overcommitting. But there's the 9k gold lead, so
I gotta tell you, kids, all you kids watching at home, if you want to learn how to swap damage, Toronto is putting on a clinic of damage trade or damage balancing, damage trading, whatever you want to call it. One goes in, fights, takes some damage, jumps out, and then the next one jumps in. So Purdue not able to focus really any member on the side of Toronto because they are trading this damage back and forth very well. I like the item builds right now. I would like to see some armor on BT Klein because he is just getting deleted by a Genesis. But he's so far behind, it's, I'm not surprised. He just barely finished his second tier 3 item. But I think what is missing, and maybe he's building towards it now, is the Echo on Myrtle Beach for that Echo Yummy Catnip Frenzy as a kill comes out for the side of Purdue.
Yeah, and they do end up getting the turret after this. This looks like a little bit of a late rotation from Brutal Turtle. The 3-man push was coming from the side of Purdue, and they were able to finally dive at Genesis under the turret and get the turret in that aspect. So they get a little bit of gold going their way, and so far they haven't lost anybody yet. It looks like they're okay with just getting out now.
Yeah, good play by Purdue, able to take advantage of the, let's face it, a little bit of a poor rotation from the side of Toronto. They've been rotating so well as a team throughout this game. Purdue found them out of position. We were able to take advantage of it, but now Toronto, very low on health, chasing in very close to the Crystal Century. They choose to turn around, which is probably a good choice there.
Yeah, especially since they were 2v3. Everyone was half health, both the members of all 3 members of Purdue and both Brutal Turtle and Myrtle Beach were fairly low. But that Echo does come out for the Koshka here, so I'm expecting a lot of lockdown to come down here really quickly for Toronto. I feel like this is going to be almost one-sided in this next fight because somebody's not going to be able to move the entire time.
Yeah, definitely what I wanted to see was the Echo come out from the Koshka. Definitely a good choice there. I'm happy to see it. And Genesis going in 1v3 here. All right.
Yeah, he does. Look at that damage that he's doing. He's starting to take a little bit more. Dodges the Valkyrie, gets hit by the wave for it though, and eventually he has to back off. He did quite a bit of damage there though, considering he was all by himself.
He reached 16 stacks in that. I mean, had he had the rest of his team there, he'd probably hitting 20 stacks, and we're talking about an ace. But he decided to take advantage of that, go 1v3. However, Kraken just came up, and now the entire side of Toronto is pretty low. Myrtle Beach really the only one that's above half health here, so they're gonna have to make a choice because Purdue is right here.
And there comes a silence out. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting fight. Petal makes it over the wall. This time the Koshka first one gets blocked by the reflex block, but the second one does not. This gives time for the Rona to kill the Catherine and the Rhyme, and Vox is just off on his own trying to run away at this point. Jimenez unable to 1v1 the Petal there with the pressure from the Koshka as well, so it looks that gold advantage, the snowball advantage that the side of Toronto has is just showcasing now. That huge gold lead is making these fights just so hard for Purdue to even attempt. Like, they felt like they were okay in some of these fights, but then all of a sudden all it takes is Ed Genesis or Myrtle Beach to either jump in and stun somebody or jump in and start using that red mist on the Rona, and it's just, they have to separate. They're just taking way too much damage too fast. They just can't handle all the damage coming out from the side of Toronto at the moment.
Yeah, here we go, folks. We are talking about a 10k gold lead with really only 2 1/3 turrets left. If Purdue does not play this right, this could end their playoffs here.
Yeah, the 2-2 side of Toronto, who struggled in the regular season, that did make playoffs and then did win their first round of 16 matchup 2-1, might be taking out one of the relatively undefeated teams, 4-0 overall on the regular season. Purdue here, fighting to stay on. Here comes the first Yummy Cabinet Frenzy, comes out onto Jimenez, but it looks like the Falcon comes out from the Rhyme to do some damage, but it doesn't look like it did any damage at all. Rhyme's falling really fast, but there's the damage finally, and Genesis finally falling back very low there, but Petal, Brutal Toro on the backline, just putting in work the entire time, and here comes the re-engage from the side of Toronto. It looks like they want to go back in with this Kraken. It's still above half health, but now Jimenez back to full health, and Genesis looks like, yep, Genesis is going to overstay a little bit too much and finally get taken down. Kraken is still alive, hitting that turret though, so
Yeah,
fairly good push for the side of Toronto.
That was a good push, but I also think it was unfortunate. I think that was poorly played by a Genesis. All Toronto needed to do was keep poking and running back out just to try to keep Purdue busy while the Kraken did its work. And when a Genesis just jumped in the middle of all three of them, gave them that kill, they were no longer able to do that. So they may have been able to get even more. Not sure. They were all fairly low, but sometimes when you just keep your opponent busy while the Kraken's doing work, they forget about the Kraken. They go after the kills, and if they don't go after the kills, then you keep poking them and they get really low. I thought that was kind of a premature dive by his Genesis. Ultimately, it may be an irrelevant point just because we now have an exposed Vein Crystal for Purdue, and it's 18 kills to 4, and we're looking at still a 10k gold lead in favor of Toronto. So may just be prolonging the inevitable at this point, but I thought they might have been able to take better advantage of that push.
Yeah, the entire time of that fight, Brutal was just kind of sitting on the back lines. He was hitting turret, but he would change over to whatever hero got closest to him, and he would just start poking damage at him. And that's exactly what you were trying to get them, or wanted them to do in the first place. Just poke damage as best they can, and eventually take out the turret. But here comes the fight. Crystal Sentry goes down. The first stun landed on top of Jimenez from the Yummy Cabinet Frenzy. Here comes the second one. This one does get blocked up, and this time really, really low on this Koshka. Koshka almost dying, gets out. Did not use that Atlas in time, but this time Genesis is going to go down dying, and the chase from the side of Toronto isn't working as well as they thought it did, and this might just be, now Koshka gets out, so they do get 2 kills, but fairly a little bit of messy decision making, it felt like, from the side of Toronto. Like they had the idea to just go in on them after they killed the sentry, but it didn't seem like everybody's on the same target.
Yeah, not at all. And Genesis made it up to 20 stacks on that breaking point, but by the time he got there, he was dead. There wasn't enough engage from the rest of his team. I feel like in some of these engagements, Myrtle Beach is stunning a target while the rest of his team are chasing the other two, so they're not taking advantage of that Yummy Cabinet Frenzy. Turtle Beach diving in here, trying to get the kill on TNT, but may end up giving up his own life for it.
Yeah, he does end up losing a lot there. That time, another Atlas proc there, but he keeps using the Atlas when he's further away from people. That's a little odd. Maybe that's a little bit new player syndrome coming in, knowing that the range on Atlas isn't very good. You really have to be on top of them, but Koshka probably one of the most efficient heroes at delivering that system with her ability to pounce on top of people.
Or it was just a panic hit, right? I'm about to die, just let me waste all of my cooldowns. We see that happen.
Yeah,
even though it doesn't make sense. You're like, just let me try something to help myself.
If I hit all these buttons, something will happen, right? Yeah. So here comes the push in. It looks like TNT went go to heal, but Purdue does end up getting the Kraken, and this gives them life. Kraken is something that will be able to get them a couple turrets here. Hopefully they can get at least 2 so they can get some more gold in their pocket. But this is a 3v2 fight. Myrtle Beach is still dead, just now respawning with that turret dying, giving him a little bit of extra respawn time quicker. And
yeah, Purdue needs to be careful here, because if Toronto finds a fight here, they don't even have to worry about killing this Kraken. They can just base race it.
Yeah.
So
there
Purdue
comes the
needs
stun.
to be smart about this engage.
Yeah, the first stun comes out as Genesis tried to go in there. It doesn't stop the red mist, so the team has to back off a little bit, but it did stop the original initiation onto the team, and they're not going to be able to get the choke point turret.
Yeah,
so unfortunately for them.
a little premature on that stun. Oh, and the
And here
silence
comes
comes out, and we're having a fight.
Yeah, here we come. The chase down happened. Ed Genesis spinning around in that fight with the red mist, really low on health. But here comes the stun onto Jimenez. Yummy Catnip Frenzy goes down. A second one goes down. Jimenez barely doing enough damage. It looks like finally with his breaking point, he only has 6 stacks so far, but does end up getting a kill. BT Klein does end up going down to Brutal Turtle in the background. Brutal Turtle doing the best he can to kite, and Myrtle Beach running away right now, but I think Vox is going to be able to run him down. But now the captains have split. Who's going to go for who? It looks like both captains go down, and now it's a half health Jimenez versus a half health Brutal Turtle, and Brutal Turtle's in a bad spot. He comes out with the silence barely.
With the sentry.
Yeah, the sentry doing damage, and the silence was barely late to try and keep that from keeping him off. But oh, he does get it. Really well done from the side of Jimenez. Just
I thought there was a huge missed opportunity there. I feel like Brutal Turtle could have just gone for the crystal there. They left him alone for quite a while. Right after Edge Genesis died, they focused on Myrtle Beach, on the 2v1, and Brutal Turtle looked for a minute like he was going to go for it. He went down into the tri-bush, and Vox stopped chasing him, turned around onto Myrtle Beach. But Brutal Turtle turned around and came back, and I feel like maybe he could have tried to base race him, and Myrtle Beach might have, with her pounces and stuff like that, been able to keep them from porting back. And even if not, Brutal Turtle would have been on the other side of the map and able to port home if they managed to escape from Myrtle Beach. So I thought there might have been a brief moment there where Brutal Turtle was thinking the same thing I thought, which was, there's nothing between me and the crystal. But he chose to turn around, ended up giving his life back. And at one point, we were 18 kills to, what was it, 1, 3, 4,
I
something
think it was
like that.
4. I think it was 18 to 4, and now it's 20 to 10.
It's now 20 to 10. It is still a 10k gold lead, but at this point, it doesn't matter. About the 40,000 gold mark, everybody's going to be at full build except for maybe your captains. So gold really irrelevant at this point.
And we see another fight break out. This time the stun comes out onto BT Klein. Looks like he's getting really low. Brutal Turtle also getting really low. Both fountains come out. Brutal Turtle running away, but BT Klein barely able to stay alive here. Jimenez taking a lot of damage now. The second Yummy Catnip Frenzy finally comes out and does clean him up.
And that's the game.
That should be game. Yeah, they're all members of Purdue are alive, and it looks like, yep, Koshka, Myrtle Beach going for the ending push right now, letting his teammates do that, and he's just going to go run into the enemy base and kill it himself. And that's all it took, was a little bit of a fight going their way. And I want to applaud Myrtle Beach for that, holding on to that second Yummy Catnip Frenzy. He used his first one fairly early in that fight, but the second one, he just waited and waited, it felt like, and then eventually locking down another person after all their Aegises were down in reflex blocks, and it just made Brutal Turtle enough space to get out, and Ed Genesis didn't really take any damage that fight, it felt. So a pretty good fight by them. I mean, obviously the gold lead the entire game, maybe a couple slip-ups, but that's it, guys. That shows the side of the 2-2 regular season Toronto taking out the 4-0 regular season Purdue to move on to the round of 4 next week, guys.
Yeah, and you definitely see the domination in the jungle and just in the farm in general. But Brutal Turtle, 50 farm ahead of BT Klein. It kind of shows in BT's build not having any armor, and I really thought that was kind of the crutch for Purdue, because if Genesis got to BT Klein, it was just game over. Like, he was going down so quick in a lot of these fights just because he has no weapon damage, and you got a full build Rona coming at you. Just not going to work out very well.
Yeah, and that's exactly where Rona was for most of those fights, was right on top of BT Klein. The Jimenez had his full build at the end of the game there, as we can see, armor, Aegis, 3 damage items. So he wasn't dying as fast, but it was basically jumping on BT Klein, lowering him enough to force him to try and either run away or create space, it felt like. But essentially, as soon as they would open up BT Klein, he would try to do everything he can to keep himself alive, and then they would make the switch to Jimenez as he was trying to make the plays, essentially. Jimenez was trying to get onto the pedal, trying to do the damage he needed to help them out, but it just wasn't enough. And like I said...
And I really feel like, you put a metal jacket on that rhyme instead of the heavy prism and the eclipse prism there. And I think that there in that late game, Purdue was making a push, and I think they might even be able to come back because they were winning some of those fights. And Vox really outscales just about every hero in the game, and with it being late game and Jimenez having a full build, and you could see the damage that he was doing, and you could see his Genesis falling dangerously low. Brutal Turtle was just getting wiped out, and that's the downfall to Petal. Is if you go 24 minutes into the game, Petal almost becomes irrelevant. So I think if had been some armor, metal jacket on this BT Klein to tank up some more of this damage from Edge Genesis, Purdue might have been able to turn that one around, but we don't see the armor, and what it got a little sketchy there for Toronto, but Toronto upsets the undefeated Purdue. So what an amazing game tonight.
Yeah, it was quite intense. Obviously, it shows that Toronto has been practicing. They knew their comps. Maybe a little bit of that analyst side coming from Brutal Turtle as well, showcasing knowing what to draft and things like that. And then also showcasing his play, that he is a well-rounded jungler, knowing when to go in, knowing when to invade, knowing when to fight, and knowing how to do the damage and help lead his team to victory. So congratulations to the side of Toronto, guys. We're going to throw up the schedule real quick, though, so you guys can all see it real quick. Obviously, the round of 8 was the only round of 8 game we're going to see on stream was today with Purdue versus Toronto, and Thursday being Thanksgiving here in the United States, we're going to not have a stream then. But next week, guys, we'll start the semifinals. Well, first semifinal will be on Tuesday with the second one on Thursday. Both of those will happen at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So keep an eye out for that. And then, of course, the grand finals will be on the 5th of December at the same time as well, guys. So keep an eye out for those. Real quick, we'll do our shout outs and let Belligerent say anything else he might want to say. But as always, guys, I am the SRF on Twitter. You can catch me on Twitch as well. It's just twitch.tv/SRF. No the in there. Twitter just didn't have it available for me. But Belligerent, on the other hand, our infamous and knowledgeable Nova Esports Vainglory 8 coach, giving us the insight there, guys. As always, it's a pleasure to have you. You can check him out on Twitter as well. But anything you have to say, Belligerent?
No, that's it for me. Just that was it was a great match and a great clinic by Toronto, just kind of demonstrating how to trade damage. I really think that's what won a lot of those fights for him. So just a really exciting game. I can't wait to get into next week is the semifinals, right?
Yeah, next week we're going to be doing round of 4 matchups of the semifinals, and then we'll be going into the finals the week after, so it's going to be interesting. I'm not entirely sure who all the teams are yet, guys, so keep an eye on CSL Vainglory on Twitter. They will post the updates as soon as they are ready to go, but we should have some really good matches coming through. I believe Cal State Fullerton's in it. Obviously, we're going to have Toronto still going, and I believe Utah is still in the running. Fullerton and Utah played each other in the finals last year, so it'll be interesting to see who makes it to the semifinals and then who's going to move on to the finals to claim that money, guys. So again, keep a lookout for it, and we'll probably see you guys next week.
Absolutely, see you guys next week, and thanks for checking out the CSL, and come find out how this season is going to finish up, because it's going to be really exciting with all these collegiate esport players.
Yeah, keep an eye out for it, guys. And as always, thank you. And I linked the Discord and chat as well as our Twitters. And we will see you guys next time. Do 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 do.